Hello everyone. Welcome to our Small Business Symposium. I'm very excited to have a room full of people with a wide range of expertise, from brand new entry into a business to decades of experience. I have a little something to share about each of our guests before they come up here to speak. Our first guest, Roger Ralph, developed and opened a 110 square foot facility in the middle of a Delaware State Park in 2007. That's the Bel Air Athletic Club that he opened up. He ran that for some 20 years with his wife. The Bel Air Athletic Club was recognized as one of the best clubs in North America for family and community-oriented clubs. I happened to be in Bel Air on Saturday and got to go into the club because my daughter had a soccer tournament, and there were more twists and turns, studios, pools, and equipment I've ever seen in one place. The climbing wall was incredibly impressive, which Roger, I guess, had Disney come in and help design it, so well done. He also recently opened up a 120,000 square foot facility, athletic club in Hockessin?
Delaware.
What's that?
In Delaware.
In Delaware. Oh, that's okay. So one in Bel Air, one in Delaware. So there's so much more to share about Roger, but he is here today to share his mentoring efforts with Tim Curitan, who's opened up Rise Up Coffee recently, and Stacy Tibbett with Love and Notes. And Stacy should be coming today. She presented in the last semester's Small Business Symposium, and actually Tim presented in the fall last year. Mike Tilke, who could not be here, and he's very sad that he wasn't here because he had a lot to share with you. He is Executive Director from ESEC, which is Eastern Shore Entrepreneurial Center. If anyone is interested in truly opening their own business, he's the person to go to first. There are a couple things. If you're genuinely interested, there are a couple flyers at the front of the stage. One is from ESEC, and they do business competitions for real businesses, and they offer a student competition. The most recent one is, the deadline is January 27th. So if anyone is it can be a fake business plan. Doesn't have to be a real product concept. He just wants to see, or they just want to see, that you have those capabilities in starting your own business. The first prize for Eastern Shore is $800, so that's worth entering. So I'm encouraging all of my business students to enter. So there's another one from Shore Venture. There's a course for anyone interested in starting up, and that's that information is at the front here. So, so thank you, Roger, for being a guest, but we have three panelists here today who've taken time out of their very busy schedules to present to you. Julie Sweeney will be our first. She started up Coastal Haven Designs, which has earned the Best Interior Design from Best of Eastern Shore both in 2012 and 2013. She's that good. Julie is queen of time management, juggling a successful business, raising 4 children. I think she said one's going into kindergarten next year and the oldest is going into high school. So she volunteers, and she does all this while she looks like she's walking out on a fashion shoot. So Cameron Fisher was a stay-at-home mom of 2 active kids who already had a passion for travel. So what field did she go into? Travel. So she started a travel agent business over a year ago, and she had helped me take my kids to Universal last May. Scott Harris worked in the veterinary field for many years before obtaining his private and commercial pilot license, but that's not what he's here to talk to us about, although I'd love to talk to him more about his flying. He, his wife Pam, and his mother-in-law, believe it or not, all decided to create Good Dogs, and it's a wonderful story, and I can't wait for him to share with you more about that. But all 3 of them hold down full-time jobs Good Dogs earned a certificate of appreciation from the state controller. And I thank all three of these professionals for coming to Chesapeake, and I'm anxious to hear them share their aha moments, their obstacles, and what made them get into their businesses. So last, but certainly not least, we will have Luke Scubera, a business administration student who, this is his first semester here. He plays on the baseball team in the outfield for Chesapeake College's baseball team. And he participated in the in our Intro to Business class Shark Tank project, where each student had to come up with their own new product concept, whether it was fake or real, and they had to write a business plan, create an advertisement, and do a 90-second video. Well, all the sharks in the class had to vote on the top 3, and Luke got the vote for the number 1. And won this semester. And I mentioned Stacy Tibbett, who just walked in the door. She's with 11 Notes. Stacy presented last semester, so. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm here. Mike Tilke was with ESEC. I didn't do my Julie Sweeney. Cameron, Scott, and then we'll have Luke. So, without further ado, Julie. Oh, no, sorry, Roger. I'm gonna have you come up and speak. Sorry, Roger's first. Let's go back to Roger. Come on up, Roger.
No, that won't work. Yeah, I'm Roger Ralph. I think that's an old photo in the interest of being honest about this, but I moderated this last year, and I said to Kathy, you know, it's really important that you should cut me off. She gave me 6 minutes, and the same goes for my colleagues, because as entrepreneurs, they're going to all have a lot to say. So I will try to keep this under 6 minutes, and you can just hook me, Kathy. They get 15. I get that. A couple of words. First of all, I think Chesapeake College is an absolutely terrific place. I'm a huge fan of your president. And why? Because she's engaging, she's approachable, she's open to new ideas. And I'm a big fan of Kathy's. And I sat in on Kathy's class, talked to her class a bit, and it's clear she's enthusiastic, she cares about the growth of her students, she's willing to try new things. And all of you have had a lot of teachers, right? How many have been enthusiastic, what percent, and how many have really impacted you? So it's awfully fortunate to have great teachers. Kathy mentioned, I'll just give you a couple of words. This particular club is called the Hockessin Athletic Club, and I thought I had been retired from the health club business, and I guess about 10 or 11 years ago I got back in the business, and we started with 12 acres that was an environmentally troubled site on the edge of a state park in Delaware, and we ended up building a club out of the ground at about 110,000 square feet. And we couldn't make any mistakes because we were very highly leveraged, and fortunately it worked out. We ended up with about 12,000 members, and my partner bought me out in December, so I'm trying to figure out, like some of you, what I do with myself next. The Bel Air Athletic Club, which ironically Kathy had been to, and where's Luke? Luke was a member of that club, unbeknownst to me, probably in the early days. I started with my wife with no money in 1980. We opened. We didn't have enough money to pay the parking lot. We had about 5 employees, and it was one of those fortuitous stories. I was able to get, after getting rejected by every bank in Maryland and probably Pennsylvania too, we were able to get a small business guaranteed loan, and we went from 5 employees and 1 acre to when I sold it in 2000, we had 350 employees and about 8 acres. So it was just a fortunate success story, but there was a real core philosophy, which is how do you create a family club? People in today's age don't have time, and how do you put as much as you can under one roof? How are you female friendly? And how do you make it a great place for kids? And how are you an integral part of the community? So if you want to know more about that, I'll stick around later. But what I'd like to talk to you about today are two people that I've mentored a little bit, and one more than the other. Stacy Tibbett just walked in. Stacy, stand up because I'm going to tell people to come see you. This is just really straight from my heart. I'm going to tell you what I think. I don't know Stacy that well, but here's what happened. After the class that I talked to, Kathy said, would you talk to Stacy? She's a mother of 3. She has this great idea, and would you have lunch with us? So I went to Panera Bread. It's always important to break bread with people. It's an easier way to get to know them. And I thought this was going to be one and done because, you just never know whether you're going to connect. And I loved her idea, right? And she has the product here. She'll show you. But essentially, it was a love and note. It was a napkin, which is stick in a kid's lunch bag or lunch box. It had great graphics on it. Like one was, "Are you feeling crabby today?" and a picture of a Maryland crab. And I thought it was really, really clever. And so it got my attention. And for all of you that are thinking of starting a business or have been in business, what Stacy's facing is exactly what everybody faces. Is it a good idea? How do you price the product? How do you market the product? I have no money, or virtually no money. How do I build my dream? And so Stacy's at the point, I just gave her a few pieces of advice. This is very original what she's done. And I said, you've got to copyright it. You've got to protect it. In most cases, you can't protect stuff. In this instance, I think she can. And ironically, because today's world, which you all live in, she can get on LegalZoom, talk to LegalZoom, and relatively inexpensively copyright something and not have to spend $3,000 or $10,000, which she does not have to do. And once she gets it copyrighted, she can then determine whether is Hallmark interested, because that'd be a hell of a distribution system, right? Or could you sell it to Target, which custom makes their napkins? I was at Target the other day. I didn't even tell you this, Stacy. And so we bought a packet of Thanksgiving napkins, 20 of them for $3. Stacy's pricing now is $6.99. Are people going to spend that? How does she find that out? Can she market on the internet? Much less risk. Encourage her to get into a retail store and just test the ideas. So you should see her product, which is great. You may have ideas for her because it's all about the exchange of ideas, and you got to trust the process. The next person, how many of you have had a cup of Rise Up coffee? Okay, I'll tell you the story of Tim Cureton. I owe my relationship to Tim Cureton to 2 beautiful girls, Maggie and Sam. They happen to be our labs, one yellow and one white. And Tim and his wife Abby would come, Maggie and Sam sit for us, and we got to know them, got to like them. And Tim said to me, I got a passion for coffee. What do you think of this idea? I want to open up a drive-in coffee place. And I said, well, let's see if it's a real business. Now, this one was easier than Stacy's, because if you've been on Route 8, have you seen Waterman Joe's? Do you know Waterman Joe's? I've occasionally bought coffee there, and I don't know the guy well, but I just happened to say to him, I said, Corey, will you come talk to us? So I invited him over to the house. I had Timmy there, and he actually shared his numbers. My experience in business is that if you have a spirit of generosity, it comes back to you. And if you're not threatened, people will generally talk to you if you handle it the right way. And Timmy was enthusiastic, passionate. He goes out and he opens up the stand on St. Michael's, which was his first one in March of '05. He went on eBay and bought a used rig for $16,000. It was probably a $60,000 or $100,000 rig. He then opened in Salisbury, Maryland, near the hospital and the college, hugely successful. And they did a very important thing last year. Have you been to his place in Easton? It's a roasting place. And what that does, because he now owns a roasting place, he's cut his costs in half. So it's increased the viability of his business. But why Timmy has been so successful, I think, is because of his passion, because he listens, because he reaches out. And I'll just tell you one story about why reaching out to mentors is important. He found a guy who had 3 drive-ins in the Poconos, and he goes and sees this guy, and 2 things happen. The first thing is the guy liked Timmy. The second thing is he said to me something that he never forgot. He said, if you can't get me in and out in 2 minutes, don't go into business. Because the secret to that drive-in business is speed, right? So Timmy followed his advice. The other piece of advice is the same one that I'm going to give to all of you. When you go to these sessions or you sit in your classes, you're going to forget, what, 99% of the stuff? Am I right? It's just inevitable. And as you get older, you're going to forget more and more, right? So what my advice to you is write down 1 or 2 takeaways from every encounter you have. In Timmy's case, his takeaway was, I got to get this done in 2 minutes. My staff, if you meet staff from Bel Air or Hockessin, will tell you 4, which they'll remember, which affects how we would do business. And it's never fall in love with your inventory. You got to be flexible. It's always about the horses. That means who you're relating with, who's working for you, what are they like. It's as hard to do a little thing well, so why not do a big thing? And that was from my mentor, Jim Rouse, who founded Columbia. And the reason we were able to eventually build these large clubs. And then finally, profit is always a byproduct of value. So as you seek mentors, I thought about this coming over. There are probably 4 things that I would tell you about mentors. You don't necessarily have to know them, right? You'll see someone who is a great example. In baseball, Cal Ripken would be a really good example. You talk to any ball player, they're in awe of Cal because of his work ethic and what he's done. Also, don't expect your mentors to be perfect. We all have clay feet. But what you do have to do is, what are their strengths? Find that out. What experience do they have that's applicable to you? Know that most good mentors want to help. People generally, I think, want to help other people. So much depends upon how you approach them, what questions you ask. And then finally, and this happens an awful lot, give them feedback. I can tell you numerous times I've given references on people, including people I was really, really close to and tried to help. And I would never hear from them for years until they wanted another recommendation. And I would do that because it was the right thing to do. But you've got to keep the circle of relationships, because life's all about relationships. And I'll end with this one quick story, which is, the class heard it when I talked to them, but it's a great story. I'm a big believer in asking questions. And the best story I know about asking questions, because it's how you learn, was I volunteered down at the Boys and Girls Club in Sarasota, Florida, and I got a friend to come in, and this guy dove down to the Titanic twice. And so he said to the kids, his first question to them was, how long is the Titanic? And this little girl raised her hand and she said, 2 hours. So it was just a wonderful, and so, you know, I end up remembering that story. So that's my takeaway. I can tell it to you, and hopefully Kathy will find out what your takeaways are from this session. So thanks. This should be terrific. These people are learning through the School of Hard Knocks, I suspect. Okay, thank you.
And the images you're seeing behind me are really just some examples of my work and Coastal Haven Designs projects we've worked on over time. So that's just kind of a looping photo show there for you to take a look at some of the work we've done. But just to give you a little bit of backstory on myself and how I got started in my business, I really did not start out with the intention of being an interior designer, and it really wasn't on my radar until I really probably some 15 years after college. I went to college to be a news anchor. I majored in mass communications and I minored in business and public relations, and was going to set the world on fire, breaking news and all of that good stuff. And I did an internship at WBAL in Baltimore, and found that going to crime scenes the day after Christmas really wasn't my idea of a good time. It was really, really a daunting job and not really what I was cut out for. So I decided to kind of go another path, and eventually ended up in the World Financial Seminar business and got to travel the world and meet some incredible people and have wonderful experiences before I settled down and started a family, and went through some pretty good travel withdrawal, I won't lie, but I did stay home for a good 7 years before delving into what I was going to do next once my third in line went off to preschool. So I started thinking about what I wanted to do and really wasn't interested in necessarily going back to a day-to-day job reporting to somebody else. I kind of wanted to do things on my own terms so I could be available to my family and my children. So I kind of went back and thought about what I wanted to do with my time, and looking back, I realized that when I graduated from college, all of my friends were asking for trips overseas and electronics and all kinds of things, and I asked for a budget to redecorate my bedroom. And that's kind of what stuck with me. And over the years, many people had been asking me for advice in design work, and I had bought and sold several homes, and that was kind of my hobby, so to speak. But many people kept asking for advice, and finally a very good friend of mine kept saying, "You really need to do this." And I was like, people are not going to pay me to do this. There's no way. And I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go for it. What do I have to lose? So in doing that, I just started kind of going down the path of taking the steps necessary to start my own small business on the time that I had, being a mom of 3 children, and then suddenly was expecting our 4th, which could have, put a real stop on things. But I decided, you know what, I've already kind of started the process. I'm just going to go with it and do this to the best of my ability and see where it takes me. So I really embraced that, and I will say that my 4th child did not get to go to Gymboree and Mommy and Me classes. She got to go shopping, strapped onto me. So she had a little bit of a different experience, but needless to say, it has all really worked out well and has really allowed me the flexibility to be home for my kids and home when somebody's sick, but still be able to be a successful business person. So to kind of get started, I really looked back to my school and my work, that experience I already had, and it did really help me in moving on with my own plans for business. So I just started thinking about kind of how I wanted to be as a business person, and probably was a little outside of the box of what you would see on paper, but literally just started with one client, and I got my business license, and I came up with a business name with lots of feedback from family and friends, and designed a logo with the help of, thankfully, a relative who was a graphic designer, and with lots of revisions, went back and forth and came up with my business card, which I will say is a little unique and stands out to this day. People still comment on it. It's just a square card, but it's a little different, so when it's thrown in the pile with everybody else's, it does tend to stand out. And then I did my own website. There's so many tools out there now to really create your own business online, and you do have to have a web presence. I need it, especially when I'm trying to get trade accounts set up. You have to have a business card, you have to have a business license, and you have to have a website. And without those things, you really just don't have the credibility to kind of get started, at least in my business, and the things that I need for my clients. So those were necessary. And then, of course, setting up your basic office with your general office supplies. And I found that, an iPad and a cell phone are key to obviously being able to be mobile and on the go and meeting with people face to face. And my business is probably going to be a little different than the other businesses you'll hear about, just based on the fact that it's not a product, it's more of obviously a service. And therefore, I did my research, I talked to people in the business, read books, and just kind of try to decide what kind of a style that I wanted to be. And style is really, in my business, everything, because people, if they don't like your style, they're not going to use you. So it's kind of where it puts pressure on you in one direction to be successful and deliver what the client wants. Ultimately, people pick a designer based on their style. So that's what I kind of went with. And over time, I just gathered resources through working with people for my very first client and finding contractors, whether it was a painter, a carpenter, a seamstress. And that was a lot of trial and error, and it took a lot more time in the beginning to kind of get up and running and weed out the people that I was like, I don't want you associated with my name because you didn't deliver on time or you weren't professional or whatever it may be. So I've, over time, gathered kind of my go-to people that I can count on and know they're going to deliver and make me look good and get what my client needs at the end of the day. And those people, in turn, what's been really great is that they have all grown their businesses through my business. I have just given, so much business to them, and gladly so, but I haven't really asked anything in return other than when I need to call on them and say, I need you to bump me to the top of the list because I'm on a tight deadline, and they will drop what they're doing and they'll do that for me. And those are the people you want to surround yourself with, who want to see you succeed, and hopefully you can help their business grow and from there. And my carpenter is a great story because he actually started out with a builder, and then the market housing market did what it did. and they couldn't keep him on. And he had been kind of learning from this very nice custom home builder for years and was out on his own. And he was given to me as kind of a word of mouth. I needed a built-in done, and I was like, well, I'll try him out. And he was great, and he was fast, and he was reasonable, and sure enough, we formed this great relationship, and I have referred him, and my clients have referred him, and he has now had to hire people to keep up with the amount of business that he has. So to this day, I still feel like he thinks he, owes me. I'm like, no, I'm just so happy to see how successful he's become just through my, little part in his world. But so as, Roger mentioned, I think it speaks to, giving back to the people around you, and it does. It always kind of comes full circle, and it will benefit you, in ways you don't even ever really see until you need it. So, and then a big struggle for me was figuring out what to charge, because for me, doing the designing, it really just, as my husband says, it's like breathing. It really doesn't feel like work to me. I'm like, people are paying me for this? Seriously? And so I had a really hard time trying to decide, well, what do I charge? Because, there's a very broad spectrum of people out there that have, got big design firms and big, showrooms. And I was like, well, I can't even begin to play in that arena. I'm just, one girl show here. So I started out really just charging what I felt was fair based on my experience. So it was certainly probably a quarter of what, the big firms charge, but I felt like it was fair, and I also felt like the clientele it brought me were real people, and I kind of pride myself on designing for real people and not the unlimited budget people. And so that's where I started. And then, with those clients, my first job was probably not my best job, but I think that it didn't put undue pressure on myself because I charged what I was comfortable with for the expectations involved. So at the end of the day, I've now, over the years, gained confidence in what I've been doing, and I've upped my price accordingly. And I'm kind of at a place now where I'm in demand, I have a busy life, I have 4 children, and if you want me, I've got to make it worth my time to be away from my family, and therefore I have to charge to feel what is worth my time. And so, those days, as you go and you gain confidence, therefore your rate should go accordingly. And that even goes to the things I started out with, with my website. I've upgraded that as well, but my business is really more based on, word of mouth and not necessarily full-on advertising. And there's a lot of businesses that depend on that and rely on that and have to have that. Mine has been really, through community, certainly social networking, and just client referrals. I've really never paid for advertising. The only advertising I've literally written a check for has been to the magazine that I've won the award for as a thank you, kind of a, in the issue that's come out in. But ultimately, the best clients I've gotten, I will say, certainly are word of mouth, but from community donations. There's so many people that will come to you and ask, when you're a business owner, for donations constantly. And there's so many silent auction events that go on throughout the year. And I've found that by donating an hour consult, it's the best way to get a new client. And I've met the best people that way, and even, I cannot say probably only one of them has ever been a kind of one-time consult and done. The rest, I've worked with some of these people for years, and we've worked through their entire house, and I'm so thankful for those opportunities, and you're giving back to the community at the same time, so it really is a win-win there. And, as far as I've grown, I've found that, while I was smaller and able to manage all of the business just myself, as time goes and you grow, hopefully, and you get busier, it becomes bigger than you, and you just can't wear all of the hats. So I've had to, again, be able to kind of let go some of it and say, okay, what do I still want to have all of the control over? And I've had to kind of outsource the things where, some good advice that was given to me was spend your time where you're most valuable. So I've spent my time doing the design and the creative portion of it. I don't need to be typing up invoices. And in the beginning, yes, I did it all, but now it's gotten to the point where I've got someone to do that so I can focus on the business, and it's not going to grow if I can't allow some of that to be done by somebody else. And I brought on some help on both sides of the bridge, because I've now got this Annapolis, kind of Arnold-based business, and then my people over here, and it's all over the Eastern Shore. And again, I can only be as big as I can be working, so therefore it's going to require me to allow some other people to help me out. And for my clients, it's really critical for them to feel like they're still getting me, because they're hiring me. I'm the product in my business, and I'm the one that they are like, well, wait a minute, what's happening? I want you, I don't want somebody else. And therefore, it's kind of transitioning people to know they're kind of part of the team, and they'll be helping in the process, but at the end of the day, they still get me. So that's something you have to really be aware of. And then I think some of my kind of, words of wisdom, so to speak, would be, again, in my business, presentation is key. So, if I don't walk in the door presenting myself well, somebody is certainly not going to allow me to do something with their house. And so you have to keep those things aware as you're going, into business, and not also overdoing the part, and making sure that, again, in my business, if I overdress, I will intimidate people. You have to still be professional and look nice, but don't intimidate your clients, and be approachable. And I think as designers, we get a lot of stereotypical association with us, and I try to kind of break down that barrier and make sure that my clients are really comfortable, and that they're able to welcome me into their home and know this is a very personal thing that I do. I definitely am in their most personal of spaces. I get to know these people like family, and every single one of them has a story. So it's bigger than just coming in and making a room pretty. And everybody thinks this job is very glamorous, and you just go around and shop and you decorate and it's fabulous, but ultimately, people tell you the deepest parts of what they're going through in life. And what I do, I really strive to give them a part of their life that is happy. And so many times I come across people who are in a hard place, and this is a way to give them something happy to focus on. So that's my kind of special little niche that I feel like I do differently than other people. I look at it bigger than just decorating. And I think if you can do that in your business, and you look at the bigger picture and find the special little something you can bring to your business, you're going to have much more success than looking at it as just a paycheck, or just to have the title of I'm a designer, because many people go into certain professions and they just want to have the look and the image, but not really back it up with the true meaning and the work that it takes to make a business successful. And so I think if you can kind of, take that away, make sure you have a good reputation regardless, that is key in life, obviously. But when you're out in the world, remember you're representing yourself, your business. When you're advertising even, certainly there's all this social media now that's free and available, and you can certainly put yourself out there to advertise in a way that I have a Facebook page, and I'll put little updates on there, and it's a great way and free advertising. However, you have to remember on the personal side, as an individual, that if you're associated with a company, watch how you're representing yourself in social media, because that is tying you directly to your business, and you want to make sure that that's always something you're conscious of as well. So as far as, what I do in my business, I think it's certainly different than what you'll probably hear, again, from the other speakers, but I hope that's a little, takeaway here and there for you to move forward in what you're looking to do. And ultimately, if you take nothing away, I just want to say that, once you've gotten up and running and your business is moving forward and you're feeling as though, you've got your feet under you, give back to your community, because that's going to be something that you can then pay forward and help others to get where you've been. And hopefully from where you are today, you can look back and pay this forward someday. So good luck to everybody.
First, I want to say thanks for having me, Kathy. And it's really cool to see the common threads amongst people who do such different things, but at the heart of it, we all have a different passion, and it's what we're all following. So I hope that you guys are thinking about what your passion might be while we're talking, and how you can apply your passion to what we're doing. So I'm going to start today by doing a little bit of trivia, and I have some very exciting prizes for Kathy to hand out. So my first question is, how many careers do you guys think the average person has before they retire?
7.
7. 7 is exactly right. I'm impressed. Yes, he gets a prize. Luggage tags.
Do you want to?
Okay, this is
Do you want to explain what these are?
They're luggage tags.
Luggage
Yeah, they're
tags.
luggage tags.
The second question is, this is a little bit trickier. How many jobs do you think I have had so far? I am turning 42 next month, so I'm nowhere near retirement. How many?
12.
12? Nope, not 12, but that is industrious.
7.
No, closer. No, not 5. Just shout them out.
1, 3,
2.
8. 8. I've had 8.
Going to Dean.
Okay, now this is the most important question of all, which directly applies to you guys. How many interviewers do you think asked me what my GPA was when I graduated from Virginia Tech? 0. That's right, 0. I don't know. You randomly can't
Come up with another question.
Throw it out to the crowd.
throw it out to the crowd. It's a very exciting prize. And you're right, it's 0. And I don't want you guys to, come away with me saying GPA is not important. It obviously is. And if you tell my kids who are in middle school that GPA is not important, we're going to have a problem. But when I went to college, and I was at a great big huge school and with huge lecture rooms, and it was very intimidating, and college was hard for me. I was on academic probation every other semester, which is not something necessarily to be proud of, but I stuck it out, and I graduated, and my mom was like, 2.0 and you're ready to go, It was just having that piece of paper. And again, I will not share that with my children until they're in college, and just say, listen, you just do your best and make it through. So having said that, I'm going to tell you guys that I've had a really cool lifetime of careers already. And I'm proud of that. But my careers didn't start necessarily with passion. They started more with my lifestyle and what fit with my lifestyle. So when I was in college, you pick a job that fits your schedule. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep stepping back here because I feel so short behind this. I'll stay in one spot. So, you stick with the job that fits your schedule at school, right? So that really isn't necessarily a career choice, but hopefully you're picking something that at least you're interested in. And whether you're waiting tables or you're, working retail or whatever, you're still making those connections that are going to be really important as you grow and as you are looking for jobs that you really are hoping to succeed in. Oh, thanks. Okay, can you still hear me with this? Okay, great. So after, your college jobs, and then you graduate, and then you have your first job, which is very exciting, and it's not always in your direct career path, but it's something, that you think, wow, I could really do this. So for me, I had 3 minors in college. They were English, sociology, and family and child development. So I thought, well, I'm going to be a teacher. So instead of doing that right out of college, teachers don't make a whole lot of money, I went and became a director of a daycare center. So that was great, and I enjoyed it, but it didn't feel like enough. So here comes my first big jump in my career. So I go to work at a newspaper, which is pretty neat, goes with my English minor, and I'm teaching kids how to sell. It's a newspaper that, if you can believe this or not, still uses youth carriers. So it was a pretty cool little marriage with kids and my English background, and it was a good job. And then I met my husband, and I was ready to have some fun, We had this great dynamic friendship and relationship, and we wanted to have adventures together, and so we quit our jobs, and we had no jobs, and then we ran away. And we ran away from our families, like 8 hours away, and we had no jobs. And we got there and we were like, dang, we have no jobs. So then, here comes the next jump, the bad job. And we both had horrible jobs. But it was okay, because we were having fun, and, we were newly married, and it was awesome. So, our parents were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You have these great college degrees, and you're like selling cell phones, and my husband was a roofer. I mean, it just didn't, he's a mathematician. It didn't make any sense. So we're doing that for maybe a year. I stopped selling phones. I get another job at a newspaper, back kind of in my niche again. And my husband takes a sales job, and we're making some money. We're in an apartment, we're doing okay. But really, it still wasn't about career. It was about my lifestyle. And could I kayak on the weekend? What kind of responsibility was I going to have? It had to fit my life, and I wasn't ready for a full-blown career yet, which is fine. I was turning 30, so I know that seems really old, probably to these guys, doesn't it? So after that, I got a promotion. I was settling into a career. My husband got a promotion. We're doing great. And then bam, you can guess what happened, babies. And so I took a break, but it was the best job. Like, it was the job that I felt like I had prepared my whole life for. And so I settled into that, and I was a stay-at-home mom, just like Julie, for probably about 10 years. And it was great. And the best thing that happened career-wise for me while I was a mom was volunteering. Kind of like what Julie was saying again. And as much as I enjoyed being in my kids' classroom and volunteering with the PTA and book fairs and all that sort of stuff that sounds very exciting, I met a lot of people. And I met a lot of moms, and kind of got a feel for what different families were doing. And there are a lot of people that were in our shoes, trying to figure out when you go back to work, trying to figure out if you want to go back to work, feeling like, how do I define myself now that I'm a stay-at-home mom? And you use your brain in a very different way than you do when you're working. And by the time that I was in business and had a great career, it was something that I clearly defined myself by. And then when you step back and you make a huge change like that, and it doesn't matter if you're going to be a mom or you're going to flip yourself upside down and do something entirely differently, you kind of just need to settle into that and decide who you are in relation to what you're doing. So again, my lifestyle is determining my career and my choices. It really wasn't like, some big grandiose plan. Life happens in the meantime. So after my kids finished 5th grade, I thought, I should work. I should make some money. That would feel good. I should model for my kids. Not, model, but I should be a good modeler for my kids. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to see what I can find. So there was a position at my church to be a secretary. And I thought, gosh, piece of cake. I can just do it a couple days a week. I can call myself the church lady. It's going to be adorable. So I did that, and I was horrible at it. I mean, horrible. I've never been fired from a job, probably because I know when to walk away. And so I did this for about 6 months, and one day my son said to me, it was his birthday, he said, Mom, can you walk inside with me and help me carry my cupcakes in? And I said, I can't, I've got to get to work. And I went, oh, I've made a horrible mistake. This is not fitting with my lifestyle. And it didn't fit. I was stressed, I had anxiety, I was in the congregation, I had to print out these bulletins every week that everybody was reading. And there was actually one week where I opened the bulletin and there was a whole page, like 2 pages missing, that I was in charge of printing out. And so I was just in a panic. And I just thought, this isn't good. I'm stressed about school, I'm stressed about church, I'm stressed about my kids. So I quit that, and where I ended up is where I am now as a travel agent. And it combines all the things that work for me. I model for my kids, I get to do my passion, just like Julie. I'm kind of an adrenaline junkie, so it helps with that. And so it's been a really great fit. And the best part about it is that it stretches me, which is something that you should strive to do, is stretch yourself, because I'm an incredibly shy person. This makes me wildly uncomfortable. But I'm doing it because it's good for me, and it stretches me, and it makes my brain work in ways that it wouldn't normally. So it's great, and I'm making money at the same time, which is also really fun. So I have a few things that I want to share with you about what's important when you're deciding what you want to do. And the first thing I want to say is that 2.0 matters, but that's it. You know, like, be dynamic, take risks. That's the thing you're going to see that's the same amongst all entrepreneurs and small business owners, is that they take risk. And they assume that failure is going to be part of that process, just like you said. Because it's big and it's daunting. But if you assume that that's part of your step and part of your process, it's not going to be quite so scary. And I would encourage you all to just live a really big life and fit your career into your life. Don't feel like I have to, this is what I got my degree in, this is what I have to do, this is how I'm defining myself. Have some fun and figure out and see, you know, what slips in there, because you might be surprised. So, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me here. My name's Scott, and I'm an owner of a restaurant called Good Dogs Grill in Easton. Some of you may or may not have been there. I hope that you do come there after you hear from me. And I get the benefit of speaking after our three illustrious guests here and trying to tie together some of what they've said into my own little presentation here. I've been told in the past that I'm a little bit wordy, so if I drone on too long, please let me know. Give me the hook. I have a lot to say, whether you want to hear it or not. I'll start with who I am, and actually I'll start with who's not here, which is my wife. She owns the business with us. She's an accountant. She has a full-time job. She's a controller for a global consulting firm, and they're a big deal. They do, I don't know, $500 million worth of business globally. She's their controller, and then in her spare time with kids, she manages to do all the accounting and financial stuff for our business. So that's her role. My mother-in-law, you mentioned working with her. I'm not sure working is the right word. We managed to get along, and we butt heads, but that's a good point to be made, that you don't have to agree with everybody on everything, and sometimes it's good to have a contrary opinion. Staring you in the face or slapping you in the face or yelling at you sometimes, whatever it comes to kind of wake you up and go, I had tunnel vision, you're right, it's okay, let's talk about this. My mother-in-law is a teacher and has a background in philanthropy. She worked for the National Kidney Foundation for a long time, and we all came together with the idea that we wanted to start this restaurant with a theme to it, which I'll get to in a moment here. About me, you mentioned careers, and Cam mentioned careers and what you want to do with your life. I'll try to be brief. How many jobs did you say people have before they retire?
7 careers.
7 careers, okay. Yeah, jobs, I'm well over 20, I know. And career, I've lost count. I got a degree in marine biology from the University of Maryland. I did some work in that field. I worked in the veterinary business. I managed a veterinary hospital. I worked in a lot of restaurants along the way. While I was working for a vet, I wanted to learn to fly, so I got a pilot's license. A year and a half later, I was a flight instructor. Now I work for the airlines, and I'm an airline captain, and I do that 4 days a week, 5 days a week, and we own the restaurant. So it keeps me busy, but I think that wide perspective that you mentioned gives you a lot of advantages in the world. You can see things and take on people's perspectives a little bit more easily than if you're going down a very small and narrow path. And I work with a lot of people in the airline business who grew up, went to high school, went to aviation college, immediately got hired by the airlines, and they have honestly a very narrow worldview. And sometimes when you're trapped with people for 6 or 8 hours at a time in a little narrow compartment, you talk about everything there is to talk about, and you find out where people are coming from and what their views are like. And I'm naturally curious and inquisitive, and I poke and I prod and I try to find out, what they're all about, and honestly to use that to my advantage and try to learn from it. So good advice from the other folks is just keep your eyes open and keep your mind open to other ideas. One of the things that I remember from my very first job, working at McDonald's, living in Hawaii and going to high school, was something my dad told me. I was working the early morning shifts on the weekends that I didn't want to be doing because I wanted to be out surfing, and that's when the good waves were, first thing in the morning, and I was ticked off that I was there washing dishes. And my dad told me, whatever you do, whether you love it or hate it, excel at it, do it well, and it will open up other opportunities for you. And that kind of changed my view of things. So I went in there, and it didn't happen instantaneously, but he kept telling me that, and it wore away at me. And eventually I wasn't just washing dishes, I was doing other jobs, and then I moved up the ladder and I was doing the drive-through, and then suddenly I'm a shift manager, and now I'm able to dictate my own schedule, and now I'm off on the weekend mornings, and I'm out surfing when I want to be. So I've taken that through every career I've ever had. I started off in the veterinary business cleaning cages when the dogs would throw up, or after surgery, and mopping up blood and doing all kinds of really awful stuff. And then 3 years later, I'm managing a practice with 65 employees and 12 doctors, and we're doing millions of dollars of revenue. And I didn't like cleaning cages, but when there's 4 people there and I'm the one with the sponge scrubbing every little bit off every cage bar, the owner recognizes that I'm there doing a good job, and I probably have the potential to do something else. So that's one of my pieces of advice I can give you. With, I don't care what you're doing, whether you like it or not, do it really well, and other opportunities will present themselves. The other thing I learned early in my career, after I got out of school, I went to work at the National Aquarium in Baltimore, and they had a big week-long orientation for employees. And as they hand you out your little blue shirt that you wear, they said, whether you're wearing the shirt or not wearing a shirt, people are going to know where you work. And you're always a representative of this company, whether you're on duty, off duty, anywhere else. Every behavior you have, everything you have to say to anybody, you're representing our company at all times. Whether you're lying in bed, talking to friends, out drinking beer, whatever, you're a representative of this company. And it caused me to kind of change the way I thought about my job again. Those were 2 key points that I still work with today. So I've done a lot of jobs, and pardon me, I always work within those limits. Try to do whatever I'm doing really well, whether I love it or hate it. It's something I've tried to communicate to our employees at the restaurant, that you may not like cleaning the bathrooms when the tourists come through in the summer and destroy them, but do it really well, and I'll recognize it, and you'll find a way out of that job. We'll find some other opportunities for you, because people that do well are the ones that are going to have the opportunities. So what do? We have a fast food restaurant. We do burgers, we do hot dogs, we do the things you can get everywhere else. So why would you come to us to eat? We do things fresh and local. We try to get local ingredients, local vendors, local farms. Try not to truck things from a long way away. That's not necessarily a very unique idea. A lot of people are doing that now, and I applaud that. I think it's a good way to do business, a good ethical way to do business. Keep things as local as possible, keep the money in the community. The thing that we do differently is that our aim, when we become profitable, is to donate 100% of our profits to charity. I support myself with my job, my wife supports herself with her job, and likewise my mother-in-law. So when we decided to start this business, it was with the thought that we want to make a difference in the community we live in. We're not here like somebody who owned the restaurant and that was their career, that was their sole source of income. They've got a different perspective on things than I do. I'm by no means rich as an airline pilot, despite what you may think, but I've got enough money to pay my bills and put my kids through college and all of that. So why not do something to try to change the world a little bit? Those of you that are older in the audience, are you familiar with the March of Dimes? Who's heard of that? Okay. And you remember, and I'm dating myself a little bit here, in the convenience stores, they used to have the little board where you put your dimes actually in the thing. Now, who in the younger crowd here, who's familiar with crowdfunding, Kickstarter, that sort of thing? You guys have heard of that? Okay, some are not younger students are seeing so. Crowdfunding is not a new idea. It's been around for ages. Jerry's kids used to collect coins for people for his cause, and the March of Dimes has been around. So crowdfunding is not a new idea. The advent of the internet has made it new and refreshed. And we're going to try to take that idea of crowdfunding some change in the community. So everybody comes in and spends their money with us. A little bit of that money, once we become profitable, goes right back to the community. that's a different idea. I can't tell you how many times in the last year and a half we've been called absolutely out of our minds insane. We explain this idea, and people, you can see, walk away with this quizzical look and go, they're speechless. How are you going to do this? So to get a little bit technical here before I get philosophical again, how do we plan to do it? If you've had some business training, there are fixed expenses that you can't get over. There's rent, utilities, payroll, all that sort of stuff. Well, payroll's more of a flexible expense, but there are fixed expenses, insurance, things like that every business has to pay for. There's flexible expenses, inventory, food costs, labor costs, all that sort of thing. And then you've got to have some money set aside, if you're prudent, to pay for expansion, building repairs, the unknown, things like that come up. And then what's left over is profit. Profit that normally would go into the owner's pocket and support them and their family. Our profit's going to go back to charity. Local charities, local places, not some of the big organizations, but the smaller places where we can really make a difference in the community. Places where 95% of your money is not going to get lost on administrative costs. Right now, this month, we're collecting money for this young man in St. Michael's who's got a severe heart problem. He's been in the hospital for 2 months, and his family's struggling with medical bills. So we're collecting money for them. Things like that. So there's the crazy idea that we have. What have we learned in doing all this, and what can you take away from this? Number one, people are, whatever, no matter what your idea is, they're going to tell you you're a little bit crazy for doing it. I would imagine you guys have had people in your past that have told you you're nuts. Maybe not as many as I have at this point, because you have a little bit more traditional approach to things. You're going to have people that flat out hate your idea. You're going to have people that hate your product. I know for a fact there's people who have come in and have told me online or told me to my face how awful my product was. What my job is then to look at that person and do what I do when I'm flying along with the person next to me in the cockpit and say, all right, what's your motivation? Is your complaint legitimate? Is it a little bit nutty? Are you overly irritated about waiting 2 minutes for your hot dog versus 3? Let's put things in perspective. Really take the time to analyze what you're doing and what people are saying about you. I'd give you that advice. I've been told that I tend to react a little bit too quickly to things like that and fly off the handle. So my challenge is to take a deep breath and go, okay, the whole thing's not going under right now because somebody didn't like the mustard on their hot dog. Let's just take a deep breath. So you're going to be told you're crazy. You're going to have some haters. Get over that. Forget about it. And if they have legitimate concerns, you address them. If you don't feel they're legitimate, then you got to take that risk of not addressing it. Products. You guys have great products that you have to offer, and people like them, and you can't be out there without a great product. However, there's going to be people that tell you your product stinks, as I mentioned. There's going to be people that love your product. But the number one thing that, in my mind, makes the difference between us being successful or not successful is the people that we have working for us. You guys have, or you're just working on your own, or you've some employees and people with you now, but you started small. The disadvantage I'll say that I had is we jumped into this with an existing restaurant that we turned into this concept, and we had a lot of people working for us, and not everybody shared our vision of what we wanted to do. You guys that were lucky enough to start on your own, you've got your vision, you've got your passion, and you do everything the way you want to do it. When you take on employees and other people, they may or may not share your vision. They may tell you they do, and then you find them executing some jobs and they don't. So my piece of advice is, if you're going to work with a group of people, find people that really, truly share your passion for what you want to do. I know she's giving me the high sign. I'm almost done. People that really, really share your passion. If they don't, they're not going to put the effort into it that you would. You're going to be a lot less successful that way. And I know that we've had people that work for us that say, yeah, that's a great idea. And then we go in and see the work that they do and the effort they put into it. And I realize, well, okay, they're just saying that. They don't really believe it. So really believe in whatever you do. Find people that join you that believe in what you do. I'll leave on one philosophical note here, and I love quotes. The people that work for me know that I love quotes. And there's one from one of my favorites, John Adams, and he said, there are two types of education. One should teach us how to make a living, and the other should teach us how to live. So only you can decide how you want to live and how you want to make a living. That's part of what you're doing right now, and part of what we continually do through our lives as we go through our 7 different careers and 25 different jobs. So find a way to make a living and find a way to live, and find something that makes you happy. And for us, trying to do something to make a difference in the world is what makes us happy right now. That's it. Thanks.
My name is Luke Scavier. I'm the founder and CEO of FindABuddy.com. FindABuddy.com, surprisingly, I didn't know it was going to correlate exactly to what all these people are talking about, especially Roger Ralph here. Essentially, what FindABuddy.com is, it started off almost like Twitter did. Twitter started off as telling what you ate for breakfast, telling all your friends what you ate for breakfast, but it's actually evolved into an animal all on its own. How do we get to the PowerPoint? Alright, I'll roll without the PowerPoint for a second. Essentially what FindABuddy.com is, let me give you an example. Mr. Roger Ralph here. Let's say, who here is interested in starting a small business of some sort when you get older or just in the future? Anybody? Okay. Doesn't matter what it is, because we can all see all these people here, they've taken different ventures in their life. They have different passions, as all of them spoke about. But one thing that we can all share is that finding people, making connections is very important. And what FindABuddy.com does is essentially you can find people that are going to help you succeed in whatever venture you want in the future.
Sorry. I have difficulty with
Just wing it. Okay. FindABuddy.com started off as a way to find friends. Like people basically that don't know what to do with themselves, so let's go find people. But what it turned into is I could really use this PowerPoint. I'm being so serious.
While we're waiting for this, for the presentation to come up, I'd like anyone who has a question for any of the 3 panelists. I don't know if the lighting can be. So any questions right now? Yes, Marshall.
With the graphic or with the interior design business, how did you build a portfolio before you started?
I really didn't. So I'm sorry. So your question was, as an interior designer, how did I build a portfolio before I started? I really didn't. I just jumped right in. I just did one client at a time, and I built my portfolio over time, and that was the best testament to my work, was just to be able to have that experience and use it as an example. And my home was probably, yes, my best portfolio, because everybody would come in and say, I want to do it just like this. And even to this day, when people ask me questions, they'll say, well, what would you do with your house? I just want it like your house. And I say, it's your house, we're going to do it to your style. So.
Bryce.
For Mr. Harris, I know I've been to Good Dogs Grill a couple times, and I've looked at all your different hot dogs and different flavors. How did you come up with all of those? Did you look at another business's model, or did you just...
Okay, the question was, how do we come up with all of our wacky recipes and ideas at the restaurant? And personal experience, I have a passion for small individual restaurants doing unique things with food. So as I travel with the airlines, I'll go out in various cities and I avoid the chain restaurants, and I try to find these unique individual places. And I'll be honest and tell you that a lot of those ideas came right from those restaurants where I'd go, oh, this is neat, I'm going to write this down. So it took a number of years of accumulating those and tweaking them. And then once we decided here's where we want to be. We had a big test day where everybody came in and tasted everything and got a lot of feedback and try to constantly refine them. So that's where it came from, just my personal experience in travels.
I have a question for Cameron. What does destinations? What do you offer? What type of travel agent are you?
Well, I do all travel, all around the world. My favorite to plan is Disney, just because that's what I know really, really well for being a mom and traveling with kids. But I plan a lot of multi-generational travel and make sure that grandparents, kids, and the grandkids can all travel together and enjoy the same vacation, whether you're going to Costa Rica or Disney or skiing. There has to be something for everybody, all in the same package. So that's what I really love to do.
Okay, we'll go back. Can you turn that? We'll back to Luke Scavera.
Does Luke want this mic?
Oh, yes, yes.
Does this one work better? I can roll with this one. This will work good. Hello, everybody. Okay. FindABuddy.com. What is FindABuddy? FindABuddy.com. FindABuddy.com is an online friend-finding service which allows people to find, search, and select a companion which they would like to spend, pay to spend time with. So basically, Mr. Roger Ralph here, you're a perfect example. Mr. Roger Ralph has a fantastic experience in the fitness industry. He created Bel Air Athletic Club. So let's say I wanted to get started my own fitness company. What I could do is I could contact Mr. Roger, and I can sit down with him and say, I want to. Mr. Roger makes his own rates. So what he'll do is he'll charge me whatever his rate is according to however much time he has, and I'll pay him for his knowledge basically. And at the same time, I'm going to make a connection. And if I can impress him enough, maybe it's going to open up more connections because he'll feel that he can spread them to his connections. Our mission is to provide people with a fun, interesting, and confidential friend, provides jobs to people of all ages, genders, and ethnicities, and creates an international online friend-finding service. How does it work? First, for the customer, we have a background check. It's a federal background check. You need to meet all the financial requirements. You need to be eligible. You need to be a citizen of the United States. You need to make sure you have a clean history, no drugs, no violence, because we need to make sure that our customer is safe and at the same time our buddy is safe. And a search engine, you're going to want to find, all the customers are going to want to find their buddy. So you're going to have a really advanced search engine, and you can type in, I want to meet somebody that has a history in baseball, and somebody has these degrees, someone that's really going to be able to relate to you. And then talk. You're going to have, it's going to be monitored, but you're going to be able to talk to the customer's going to be able to talk to their buddy. So you can say like, wow, so you have these degrees, you have this history, this is the person I want to meet. And then you can meet, and the sky's the limit at that point. And then for the buddy is Mr. Roger Ralph here. The buddy has to meet all the requirements also. They're going to make sure that it's safe for the customer to meet them also. And then after all the information is put into the computer, the buddy who's going to mentor the customer, they're going to meet with a regional representative, and they're going to make sure all the paperwork's right, that this is actually the person that put the information online. They're going to sign the contract, they're going to get their buddy identification card, and they're going to make their profile so that the customers can find them. And here's basically my inner circle here. This is the people that make up FindABuddy.com. In the first year, we really found out why people were joining FindABuddy.com. In the first year, we found out a lot of people were trying to write books. They wanted to find people that they could get information out of. If this is war veterans, this is people that have participated in professional sports, and really the sky's the limit. But we really found that people wanted people for writing books, they needed references, and they needed them for sports training, like baseball players and football players. And this is the growth in 2013, because we're not getting started off. We're not looking for capital to start our business. We've already started, because with our inner circle, we've all provided enough initial capital that we got our website started. So you can see that we've had a pretty good ratio to buddies to customers, and we found that even though the buddies are significantly lower than the customers, that's fine. That's fine, because not all customers that register are gonna find the buddy that they're looking for. And then profits. The profits that we've made, you might be asking, how are we making money? How is my company making money? The way we're making money is, we're gonna be getting a percentage of all the interactions that we're having with people like any of you. If somebody needs help with design, needs help, they want to become a travel agent, or they're opening a restaurant, they can go to you, and they, findabuddy.com, we will get a percentage of the rates that you charge. And then the rest of the income is taken from advertisement. We advertise on our website, and that's how we get most of the revenue. I'm gonna have to cut it off real quick, but we're doing real good. And what we need, from you guys is we need to advertise. We need to make sure that people are seeing us, and that's what's essential. We're already started. We just need your help to keep on going. We have the momentum, and momentum is key in any business for success. And we have the momentum. We just need you to keep it going. So we need to advertise. So what I'm asking for from all of you people, especially Mr. Roger Ralph here, we need $500,000, and I will give you, sir, 20% equity in my company right now. So that is the offer on the table right now. I'd like to thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So you can see we've had some fun with this Shark Tank project. The very last thing is I have Kathy Barber here, who is Vice President of Academic Affairs, who would like to present Luke Scovier with. Say something.
I'd just like to say I think that's a terrific idea, though you may be a little pricey on that additional equity offer. But I'd like to congratulate you for winning the Shark Tank competition.
Thank you very
and we
much.
look forward to seeing what you do with this.
Thank you.
So, congratulations.
Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you being here. And I hope you learned a lot.
Thanks, kid.